Computer Science Education Week just wrapped up. Computer Science Education Week is all about inspiring kids to learn more about computer science. In honor of this special week, I'll help you learn the basics of Scratch and walk you through how to complete a special project. So be sure to stick around until the end of the video. In case you haven't heard of Scratch, it's a free website developed by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, that provides a space for people to learn how to code and share their creations with others. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe to my channel. And if you like what you're seeing here, please remember to hit that like button down below. Now, let's dive into Scratch. To create a Scratch project, let's walk through a few basic concepts. Scratch uses something called block code, which is a group of computer commands that allows an action to be performed, like moving an object forward or backwards, or even adding sound. You'll see that in action when we work on our project in just a few minutes. Scratch uses something called a sprite, which is a character or object that will be used in the program that you create. A sprite could be anything, like a shape or a cartoon character. You can change the look of a sprite by adding or using something called costumes. For example, the Scratch cat has a different costume from when it's standing versus when it's walking. Now, let's get familiar with the Scratch interface. Under each sprite, you can add code to tell what your sprites do. To add a sprite, click on the Sprite button. From here, you could choose a sprite from the Sprite library. If you want to upload a custom sprite that you've created, you can upload it using the Upload button. Also, you could easily delete sprites by using something called the Sprites pane. Any sprite you add or upload will automatically appear on something called the stage. The stage is where you can preview your code. The stage will also have all your backdrops. A backdrop is the background for your project. You can have one or more backdrops in your project. To add or upload your own backdrop, click on the Add Backdrop button on the bottom right. To make sure your sprite takes some sort of action, you will need a series of command blocks that have code inside them. All of the different types of code blocks are located in the left side of Scratch and under the Code tab. There are different types of code blocks, like motion, looks, sound, events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and you can even create your custom blocks. Each type of block is indicated by their color. For example, variable blocks are orange. To add code, you need to drag and drop each command into the command block into the workspace. You can snap different types of code blocks to connect your code. With some code, you can change certain parameters like position, duration, and much more. To see your code in action, click the green flag button. Now I'm going to show you how you can make a cool project in Scratch. We will be creating something similar to Google Translate, which allows you to translate phrases into different languages. We'll start by making a new custom sprite. So click on the Sprite button and click the Paint tool. You'll get a blank costume where you can customize it. I'll add some text here. And when you're finished making your sprite, we can head to the Code tab. First, we'll check out when the Start flag is clicked. This is the beginning block that will run our code when the green flag is clicked. The green flag, remember, is right here. When our code runs, we want our sprite to say something. So we're going to go to the looks. We're going to go to say hello for 2 seconds. So we make sure it's the one with time duration. We're going to change that hello to welcome to Stemagear Translate. And we'll keep it for 2 seconds. Then we're going to add an ask and wait block. And what this does is it asks a question to the user and requires an input for the user, or else the code will not continue. So we're going to get 2 of these blocks, one for what language would the user like to translate to, and second, what phrase they want to say. So we'll drag both of these blocks into the code editor and we'll type the text. So how exactly do we translate the specific phrase that the user asks for? We'll use something called a variable. A variable in Scratch is basically a container that can store information for later. A variable can be numbers, text, or other things. For our example, the variable we want is just a language variable, since the language will change based on what the person wants. So, on the Variables tab, click Make a Variable, and we'll name it Language for all sprites. Under this pane right here, under the Variables tab, you'll find a block that says Set Language to 0. Drag that after it says what language you want to translate to. So how do we set this answer to this variable? We go to the Sensing tab, and we'll take this answer block and drag it over the 0 value. This will overwrite that value and store this answer as a variable. While it's trying to translate, we're going to add a little animation. So go to the Looks tab and find the block that says Change Color Effect by 25. But instead of changing the color by 25, we actually want to change pixelate value by 25. And we will add a repeat loop and add a repeat block. And set the value to 10 if it's not set already. We're going to do something very similar, except instead of change of one of these effects by 25, we're going to set a certain effect. So it's called the set block. We're going to change this to set mosaic effect to -25. And we're going to again get a repeat block. So we're going to do repeat 10. Make sure this value is set to 10. And we want this sequence to be repeated again. So how do we do that? We go get another repeat block and drag it on top of both of these effects. We want it just to repeat this whole sequence 5 times and drag it onto the rest of the code. After the loop, we want to set some of these effects to 0, specifically the mosaic effect. So we'll click Set Mosaic Effect to 0. So now here's the fun part. For the text to translate to specific language we want, we need to get an extension block. Go to the bottom left corner, and where it says is little blue box with a plus sign. Click that. Here you can add a variety of extensions. For today, we're just going to use the Translate extension. So first, we need to drag a Say Hello for 2 seconds block down here. So you're going to change the duration to probably around 15 to 20 seconds. So if you translate a longer phrase, the user would actually be able to read it. So go back to the Translator tab and drag this translator block that says Translate Hello to whatever language. So drag that on top of the hello and it will fill in. And here in these 2 boxes, we're going to put in our variable and answer blocks. So for the language, that's a variable. So go to your variables and drag the language 1 variable, or whatever you named your variable, to the language section where you could choose any language right here. This will be replaced by a variable. And we're going to take the answer block, which is taking it from here. It's taking the answer from here. And you could drag that over the hello block. So what this is doing is translating the answer to this question to our language, which we defined up here, and we set it to the first question. And we'll test to see if it works. So we'll click play. We'll type our language we want. We'll type a phrase that we want. Our animation's happening. And that's it. One more thing. We need to set pixelate to 0. See how that works. And it looks like the program works now. So now you know the basics of Scratch. Have fun coding! Thanks for joining me in the STEM Edge adventure. If you like what you saw, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.